She boarded the plane with confidence. Young, successful, and carrying the weight of a story few could imagine. But the moment she approached her seat, everything shifted. A stranger, bold and unapologetic, sat where she belonged, refusing to move as if her presence didn't matter. The whispers around her grew louder, the tension thicker, and the injustice impossible to ignore. What happened next wasn't just about a seat. It was about dignity, power, and a single decision that would shake an entire airline. Would the world finally pay attention? Her name was Maya. To the world, she was more than just another passenger. She was one of the youngest black billionaires in America, a self-made success who carried herself with quiet grace. Behind the headlines of wealth and power, she was still human, a daughter, a dreamer, and someone who had worked tirelessly for every ounce of respect she had earned. On that morning, her life looked ordinary enough. She rolled her suitcase through the bustling airport, sipped her coffee, and blended into the sea of travelers rushing to their gates. For her, flying wasn't new. Business meetings, charity work, public speaking, airports had become routine. But there was always a weight she carried with her, one invisible to most. The subtle stares, the dismissive looks, the unspoken reminder that no matter her accomplishments, some people would see only the color of her skin. As she approached her gate, her mind was already on the presentation waiting across the country. She expected nothing more than a smooth flight, a quiet few hours to gather her thoughts. Yet, just a few steps from her assigned seat, something would shatter that expectation and ignite a chain of events that no one on that plane or in that airline would ever forget. Maya reached her row, ready to settle into the quiet comfort of first class. But her seat, the one printed clearly on her boarding pass, was already taken. A man, older and dressed in a crisp white shirt, lounged there as if it belonged to him. She paused politely, assuming it was a simple mistake. "Excuse me," she said gently, holding out her ticket. "I believe you're in my seat." The man didn't even glance at her ticket. Instead, he smirked, shook his head, and leaned back deeper into the leather cushion. "This can't be your seat," he muttered. "You must be confused." Confused? Maya's heart pounded, though she kept her composure. She explained again, calmly, but his response was sharper this time. "You people always try to push your way in." The words stung, slicing through the polite hum of the cabin. For a moment, the air seemed to freeze. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between the two. No one spoke up. No one intervened. The silence was deafening. A flight attendant finally approached, and for a flicker of a second, Maya felt relief. Surely this would be resolved. But instead of addressing the man directly, the attendant turned to Maya with a strained smile. "Ma'am, maybe we can find you another seat. It's not worth the trouble. Not worth the trouble." The phrase echoed in her chest like an insult, as though her dignity could be traded for convenience. She pressed her ticket into the attendant's hand, her voice steady but firm. "This is my seat. I'm not moving." The man scoffed loudly, drawing a few nervous chuckles from those nearby. "Typical," he said under his breath. The word carried the weight of centuries. Disrespect wrapped in casual cruelty. Maya stood her ground, but the longer the standoff stretched, the heavier the atmosphere grew. Passengers avoided her eyes, some shaking their heads as if she were the problem. And in that moment, she realized the danger wasn't just in losing a seat. It was in being erased, dismissed, humiliated in front of an audience too afraid to care. The attendant's voice lowered, almost pleading now. "Please, ma'am, let's not make this bigger than it needs to be." Bigger than it needs to be? For Maya, it already was. Her entire life had been filled with moments where she had to fight twice as hard to be seen, to be respected. She knew this was more than a seat. It was a test of whether her voice, her rights, and her very presence mattered. And with every passing second, the tension mounted. Would she give in to keep the peace, or would she take a stand that could bring the entire flight, and the airline itself, to a screeching halt? The standoff had reached its breaking point. Maya refused to move, her boarding pass clutched tightly in her hand, while the man sat smugly in the seat that wasn't his. The whispers around them had grown into a low murmur, phones tilted just slightly. Passengers beginning to record, sensing something bigger was unfolding. The flight attendant's patience snapped. "Ma'am, if you don't cooperate, we'll have no choice but to remove you from this flight." Remove her? For sitting in a seat she had paid for, earned, and rightfully claimed? Maya's chest tightened, fury burning hotter than fear. The man smirked wider now, enjoying the spectacle. To him, this was more than a seat. It was domination, a reminder that no matter her wealth or success, she would never belong in his eyes. She could feel the weight of every stare, the silent judgment pressing against her skin. Some passengers rolled their eyes, others shook their heads, as though she were the problem. It was the same story she had lived 100 times before, but this time, she wouldn't let it slide. Maya's voice cut through the cabin, clear and unshakable. "Call your supervisor. Call the captain. Call whoever you need. But I'm not leaving this seat." The attendant hesitated, torn between protocol and the growing attention of cameras. But the threat hung heavy. Security could be summoned, and she knew how quickly situations like this could spiral. Her phone buzzed in her hand, and with one steady breath, she made the choice. She dialed a number, a direct line not many people in the world had. When the call connected, her words were calm but lethal. "This airline has a problem, and unless it's fixed right now, you won't have an airline left to run." The cabin froze. The smirk vanished. The entire atmosphere shifted in an instant. Because Maya wasn't just fighting for her seat anymore. She was about to bring the whole system crashing down. The call changed everything. Within minutes, supervisors were rushing down the aisle, the captain himself stepping out of the cockpit. The man who had mocked her just moments ago was suddenly silent, his arrogance shrinking under the weight of authority he hadn't expected. And for the first time, the airline looked at Maya, not as a problem, but as a force too powerful to ignore. Her seat was returned to her, but the damage had already been done. The humiliation, the public dismissal, the reminder that her skin color could strip away respect no amount of wealth could buy. That pain lingered long after the flight took off. Yet Maya knew this wasn't just about her. The videos recorded that day spread like wildfire, sparking outrage and igniting conversations at airlines, and the public could no longer brush aside. What started as one stolen seat became a spotlight on something much bigger. The quiet, everyday racism that thrives in plain sight until someone dares to fight back. For Maya, the battle wasn't only about reclaiming her place. It was about refusing to be invisible, no matter how uncomfortable it made others. And in standing her ground, she forced the system to confront its own reflection. But here's the question that lingers long after the flight landed. How many more Mayas will it take before respect is no longer something to be demanded, but something freely given? This isn't just her story. It's ours. And the next time we witness injustice, in a seat, in a store, on the street, will we stay silent? Or will we finally take a stand? Disclaimer. The stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. We believe in a world where everyone is treated equally under the law and where society grows through fairness, progress, and unity. Our goal is to present thought-provoking and meaningful stories that inspire positive change. Any resemblance to real people, events, or organizations is purely coincidental. These stories are not based on actual individuals or occurrences and carry no political, social, or religious implications.